Welcome everyone to the AmRRON Communications channel. This is part 3 of the T-REX 2025 After Action Report. I'm going to be covering some of the points in the narrative section of the survey that was put out the week after T-REX. What went well, what didn't, or what broke, how did you overcome it, and then observations, thoughts, and any other experiences you want to share. These are really interesting. And what I'm going to cover today is not going to be comprehensive because there's so much that really deserves full attention, as in training content and material that will have its own video or a series of videos covering various different topics. And you'll see some of that as we go through. But if you posted something and it's not covered in parts 1, 2, or 3 of this AAR, don't worry. We're going to be getting to most of these things over the next year, preparing for T-REX 2026. There's going to be a lot of territory covered as far as building the network and functioning and operating down to your family or group level, to your community level, your state or your region, and then nationwide as well. And all of the TTPs, tactics, techniques, procedures, and equipment that will help us all achieve the goals that we have from an organizational level as a network, all the way down to the individual level. This first one that I want to cover down on is not necessarily a T-REX AAR topic as far as the exercise itself, but the exercise pulls out things, it reveals things, which is the intent for you to assess your communications and identify shortcomings that then we can start working toward solutions on. So this is a really good one, and it's going to go into some other future training material. But this is one, as you know from the scenario, this was a coordinated attack, sabotage attacks on the United States government and military targets using drones and other types of attacks. And here's somebody who's living in the Washington, D.C. area, which was one of the initial primary targets, several government buildings. So this is what one participant wrote in his final thoughts and observations about the exercise. Considering the scenario, my location, career, and the attacks on the District of Columbia, I would have been at work throughout the entire exercise. I may not have been on the floor from 1600 Zulu Friday through 1800 Zulu on Sunday, but I would likely not have made it home. With the scenario and the communications network failures contained within, I need to look at how I am going to get my family home and communicate with them without traditional infrastructure. They have no interest in amateur radio, and I live out of GMRS range from work. This brings up several great points, and one that so many of us can relate to. When it comes down, if this were a real scenario, you're at this point where you got a family you're concerned about getting home in a place like the District of Columbia, you're thinking, AmRRON, what AmRRON? I need to get my family taken care of. I need to communicate with my family. That you're everything you care about, it's all right there at the point of a pin. That's what you care about. Everything else is superficial or peripheral, I should say. So let's look at this. How do you coordinate with a family and they're not interested in amateur radio? First of all, keep this in mind. AmRRON is not an amateur radio club. It is not a ham radio network. It is a communications network, which includes ham radio as a heavy lifter. Amateur radio, for those who do get their licenses, you learn very quickly, it opens up another world with multiple capabilities, from somebody who just all they have is CB and that's their whole comms plan, or just GMRS, you realize once you get into amateur radio how many different aspects there are to it and how much it opens up abilities to communicate that are restricted by pretty much anything else. But the reality is, most of us have family members, friends or family, who don't care about ham radio or all of its capabilities. So we need to look at other methods. And GMRS, you may have GMRS repeaters in your area, but one of the restrictions of GMRS as compared to amateur radio is the lack of linked repeater systems, where linked repeater systems at this time, as far as I know, last time I checked, GMRS cannot have linked repeater systems. So they're not interested in ham radio. Something you might want to look into, you may be interested in, and I am going to look into this a little further. You might want to look into Meshtastic. This is an open source, off-grid, decentralized mesh network built to run on affordable, low-power devices. This is something that a lot of local groups in AmRRON are setting up Meshtastic networks to great success. Now, you will see a mixed bag of results from people who have tried Meshtastic, and some of them say doesn't work. It's lame. It's there's no range. It just we scrapped it. Others are saying it is outstanding in our area. More and more people are using it, and we've got hundreds of people, multiple nodes, and we're all meshed together. And this is something that does not require a license. It's a small transmitter that is connected through Bluetooth with an app that you can download onto your kids' or your wife's phones and send them. Part of their kit is this LoRa, transceiver, and it meshes together all of these different Meshtastic systems or LoRa radios. Now, with you being the dad or the husband, it's on us usually. It's unfortunate when you have, let's say the wife or the mother who's into prepping and concerned about this, and the husband has no interest whatsoever. But for most of us, it's on us as the husbands or the fathers to make sure our families are taken care of, which means you're the one that's going to have to make sure these things are programmed, function checked regularly. The batteries are charged, because they won't. And that's just the reality of it. But that's the peace of mind of having communications that you can test with them. And they might be interested in this. A lot of times they'll be interested in this because it doesn't require a license. They don't have to be into ham radio, but it's something that is part of their world, an app on a smartphone. All I got to do is turn on this little transceiver and flip the antenna up, and we can text to each other. Well, as long as you understand the limitations of Meshtastic, I mean, all you can do is send text. That's what it's designed for. You can't send videos, and you can't screen chat with each other or send pictures or anything like that. But it is a way for you to be able to communicate. They're all over the world, really. And if you go to meshmap.net, you can drill down and see how many mesh systems, especially in built-up areas, in metro areas, you'll see a lot of these, and you will mesh with all the other users. You hop and skip across other mesh nodes that people you don't even know have operational. And this allows you to have a communications network. If you go to this meshmap.net, let me go back real quick. You can go to meshtastic.org to start your journey, and there's a lot of information there. And YouTube, just doing an internet search, you'll find multiple different supporting websites that help you with sourcing the radios, the material, the instructions for setting it up, and using Meshtastic. But here in the DC area, you find these different nodes, and you click on one, and it will show you all the nodes that it is regularly communicating with. It can ping and hear back on these. So all you have to do is hit one of these nodes, and it is being retransmitted throughout the other nodes. And I'm not a Meshtastic expert, but we have quite a few Meshtastic experts in AmRRON. And although they are licensed ham operators, they're generally interested in unconventional communications, and this falls within that. And they're able to get people within their group, their church, their family connected to be able to communicate with each other using this. It's simple and it's affordable, and it, once again, doesn't require a license. So we want to try to emphasize the network component of AmRRON. It's the American Redoubt Radio Operators Network. And these small radios that don't require a license and use very little power can definitely be integrated into our AmRRON operators' plans. And since many of them are licensed, you could connect to one of these nodes, which could then connect to another node that's operated by a ham radio operator. So you have a ham radio operator then that can use repeaters or possibly even directly contact other hams that are also running Meshtastic nodes. And through that system, that network type of thinking, work on ways that you can practice getting traffic from point A to point B to your family. So even a licensed ham operator with Meshtastic can then relay information to your family who is only using Meshtastic. It's not for everyone. It's not for every location, but it does work for a lot of people, and it's something you might want to explore. There's more than one way to get comms besides just ham radio, but you can integrate ham radio operators in with your family's system. You'll find, especially in emergencies, they're more than happy to help and relay traffic. It's just what ham operators live for, that moment when you make a difference and all of your training, experience, and equipment come into play and you can actually relay a real message. Yeah, you're not going to have any problems finding people willing to help you. All right, let's get into some of these others. I couldn't receive anything down in the South. And then there's another one. Based on the number of messages sent on the previous survey page, I did not receive many of them. My equipment is quite good. I'm in California and can hear Idaho, Colorado, and Arizona most of the time. Anything east of Colorado is hit and miss. Were the East Coast messages relayed to us folks on the West Coast? Okay, first of all, every year we get somebody saying something like, couldn't receive anything down in the South, as if we just forgot about the people in the South and didn't bother to send anything to them. I'm not saying that's what this person is saying or thinking, but that's implied. Every year somebody says, I'm here and I didn't hear anything. I'm over there and I didn't copy anything. Well, I assure you, there are dozens and dozens of people in the South who copied some or all of the traffic that was being transmitted in their area. And then you have somebody who otherwise has a good operating system. They have no problems copying traffic. They tune into the Aries nets, or they tune into various different ham radio nets, and they don't have a problem, but they don't receive anything from AmRRON. Okay, first of all, the information is out there. This is radio. This is not, unfortunately, it's not the internet. There's a reason why society isn't still using ham radios for all of our communicating. We've moved on. We have high-speed internet. We have fiber optic communications, satellite communications. It's fast. It's robust. You can send videos. You can stream and talk to somebody on the other side of the world in real time on video. The ham radio, or unconventional communications, is way behind modern technology in terms of capabilities. But this is when that is targeted and those communications no longer exist. all you have is ham radio when everyone else has nothing. And there are amazing capabilities in a grid down situation. But because it's the nature of radio, there are so many factors, including your antenna orientation, and takeoff angle, and propagation, and things like that. This is why it's so important to practice throughout the year. Jumping in and participating in an AmRRON training net once a year, like T-Rex, it may or may not work for some people, but it definitely will work for fewer people if they are not practicing and training throughout the year. That's where you learn how you can orient your antenna, change some things, learn how you can hit that station from Colorado consistently, not just that one time. This is not CB. We're talking ham radio, where you should be able to consistently hit your target and contact the station you want to when you want to the majority of the time. You learn that through regular practice with your equipment on the AmRRON nets. Were the East Coast messages relayed to us folks on the West Coast? Yes and no. Some of it's regional information. And if there is a bridge out in Georgia, it doesn't affect you. You probably don't care. The wildfire that is 20 miles from you is much more important. And so a lot of this traffic, even in T-Rex, is regional traffic. Now, what will happen is our NCSs will forward this regional traffic to a signal center, a SIGCEN, where we have multiple operators working together to consolidate, to look for patterns, to analyze information, to try to put together a consolidated report that then goes out to that region saying, hey, this is what's happening across America. Here's your news. This just came in from the East Coast SIGCEN, and here's a summary of what they're dealing with. So you may not get every single situation report that was sent out because, first of all, it may not have been intended for nationwide distribution. It's to let everyone know in this region, this thing just happened. So what we'll do is we'll consolidate some of those reports and then distribute those nationwide. But it would be way too congested for making sure that every situation report about a bridge being out or a traffic jam, a pile up on highway such and such, or some chemical plant explosion in Nebraska, and trying to make everybody aware of every detail of every sit rep is not practical. So we try to consolidate that and get that to everybody. So yes, information did get passed from East Coast to West Coast, but not every piece of traffic that was part of the exercise made it to every participant in the exercise, and it's not intended to. So hopefully that helps clarify that. Okay, next. Probably not realistic, but the lack of confirmation of sit rep reception made me question if I was wasting my time or not. Once again, this is the nature of radio. Don't give up. Sometimes it feels like you're the only one out there. I know there's hundreds of people on the air right now, and I can't reach anyone. I can't get anyone to respond. Am I the only one out here? Well, it feels like that sometimes. Don't give up. What we want to do also is emphasize acknowledgement, receipts of acknowledgement of the receipt of information. And we do try to do that, but we haven't emphasized that as much as we are going to be in the future. If you submit a sit rep, you should be making contact with a operator that you have positive feedback that they have received your traffic. So just jumping on the air and start transmitting your sit rep QST AmRRON, hoping somebody got it, is also not where we want to go. We want to make sure that you can call out to an NCS or somebody who can somebody relay this to an NCS. And you have positive confirmation that you got it and you put it in your log. You sent it this time to this station. He received it, 2 states away. And he said, I regularly communicate with an NCS. I can take your traffic and get it to them. Great. Then you have confirmation from that operator. But just firing off in the blind is not going to net you the peace of mind knowing that got to someone. So definitely try to make a positive contact with another operator that can confirm that they've received your traffic, that they'll be passing it along to their destination, hopefully an NCS, and then they'll know what to do with it. They'll get it forwarded on to other NCSs in the region and to our coordinating stations, who will then get it to a SIG-SEND. But that's an area we can definitely improve upon. Also, a few times I requested news updates on FLDigi and received 0 replies. Maybe it was just me and I didn't request the information properly. You could have requested it properly, but FLDigi is one of those where you have to be sitting at your station to see it coming in and acknowledge it. And in a real world situation, most people are busy. They're tending to families. They're getting the generator going that's not starting. They're trying to run across the valley to retrieve a couple of their family members they've lost contact with. They could be away from their station for hours, dealing with security issues or taking care of animals and going through their food supply and getting their off-grid stove or propane refrigerator going. I mean, there's so many things that are happening especially if this were a real event, that you could go for long times without somebody being available to respond to you. Secondly, there's propagation issues. You could find yourself, being the nature of radio, right in the middle of essentially a blackout. There's poor band conditions. We just had a solar flare, or it's just the wrong time of the day. And in 30 minutes or 40 minutes, your signal's going to get out and reach multiple people. But right now, it's not just not getting out. The ionosphere is not cooperating, or the one station that did receive your message, your request, he happens to be away working on another piece of equipment or taking care of family matters, and he didn't see it. And oftentimes you'll see people coming back and seeing a message that was posted, or a question or a request that was posted half an hour ago, and then jump on and say, hey, I just saw your message. Do you still need the information? If you still need it, I have it. I can send it to you, whatever. So patience is definitely the key when it comes to radio. And that's really brought to the surface during T-Rex. Once I was trying to get fills on a message being passed by FLDigi. I needed fills on the message. He must be talking about FLAMP. That's where we have block fills. I needed fills on the message. I kept asking for fills, but was finally told that the message was for SIG-SEND only. That kind of thing will kill any participation with exercises and or real deal operations. People shouldn't be shoved aside like they don't matter. All right. How do I deal with this one? Okay. There are 2 different types of traffic that we handle typically in AmRRON. They usually fall into one of 2 categories. There's wide distribution traffic, which means it's intended for everyone. And then there is directed traffic. That means I'm trying to get this message from point A to point B. I am trying to reach an individual station because I have a question for him and I need an answer. Okay, so for example, there is a stolen fuel truck, 18-wheeler tanker, that's the fuel is needed for these 3 hospitals and their backup generators. It's stolen. Somebody puts the word out, hey, if anybody sees this stolen truck, we're working with local authorities, maybe the SIG-SEND's working with Emergency Operations Center, and they've put out the call, hey, if anybody has seen this, we need to locate this truck desperately. Somebody finds it. They report it. Hey, I need to get this message to SigSend. We have found a truck that matches the description at this intersection, at this place, at this parking lot, whatever. There is a piece of directed traffic. We have located this missing stolen truck. Please convey to the originating requester that we have found this truck. It is at this location at this time. So there's priority traffic trying to get to the SigSend. And then you have Lawrence and Henry in the middle saying, what was that? I didn't get all that. What was the information about the truck? Tell me more. I didn't get all of that. Well, this is directed traffic. This is intended for the SigSend. Please stand by. That is not something to be offended over. Nobody's shoving anybody aside like they don't matter. But the point is, in real world situations, directed traffic needs to get from point A to point B. And when other people see that this message is for such and such only, then step aside. Don't get offended. Now, unfortunately, this is something like texting. You lose context or emotions. Things come across maybe as offensive and the person wasn't trying to be offensive at all, but you can't really convey that a little look, the smile, the nod over text, right? Things get lost and misinterpreted. So somebody who says this traffic is intended for so-and-so or such and such only, they're telling you this is directed traffic. So just keep that in mind. They're doing what they're told. They're told to let you know, because you have no way of knowing if they don't tell you they could say this is directed traffic, but it sounds like they said this is for SigSend only. That doesn't mean it's for the cool club and you're not cool, so you don't get to know what this message says. That's not what they're saying at all. That means I've got to get this specific piece of traffic from point A to point B. And then you say, oh, you step back, didn't know. Okay, cool. And we're all good. Wide distribution traffic is when somebody walks in and they say, excuse me, somebody with license plate such and such, a red Ford pickup truck, your lights are on. That's wide distribution traffic. Directed traffic is when somebody walks in and says, hey, Henry, can you tell Joe his lights are on? And then Henry turns around and he relays across the room, hey, Joe, your lights are on. What is the purpose for switching between Contestia and MFSK 32? The switch didn't work for me sometimes, and I missed data. The purpose is that Contestia is a very robust mode that does very well against interference or interfering signals. And you don't even have to be completely lined up perfectly with Contestia for it to decode. It works really well. But MFSK 32 is used for sending, it is a great mode for sending messages, files, and file exchanges where you cannot do that in Contestia. Contestia is not even an option in the drop-down to send as a mode. And besides that, it's much slower and it's not as suitable as MFSK. MFSK does need to be lined up perfectly on the band edges. If you're off a little bit on the waterfall, it a lot of times won't decode properly or decode all the way. Sometimes won't decode at all. You've got to be lined up. The mode change didn't work for me sometimes and I missed data. That does happen. A couple of reasons. First of all, you could just have a weak signal situation where you're just not getting a strong enough signal to catch that mode shift command that's sent over the air. You could be slightly off on the waterfall and not lined up perfectly. So when you get that MFSK mode change, because you're not lined up on the waterfall, it won't catch the mode change. And that does happen occasionally. And when it does, you have to manually switch to the mode, MFSK 32 or back to contest you if you don't catch the mode change. That does happen. Can the preamble be sent twice before the body of the communications? Not fully copying the preamble made it frustrating. Okay, no, we can't send the preamble twice and then send the message. I mean, you can, but it's cumbersome and it's not practical. But what we will do, especially with FLAMP, and I think that's what you're talking about, it's the preamble will show in FLAMP that you're not receiving anything because you missed the preamble. That's why our NCSs, you'll typically see them when they are sending missing block fills, is they will just manually put in block 0, which is the preamble. That's the header information for the file. They'll manually type in 0 and then comma, and then the rest of the fills or the rest of the blocks that stations are requesting being sent again. So they'll automatically send block 0, the header. And once you receive the header, then everything else becomes viewable to you on the receiving end. So straight to your question, the preamble is not sent twice initially, but it is almost always sent as block 0 in follow-up subsequent missing block fill requests. And that pretty much brings us up to the end of part 3 of the T-REX 2025 AAR. We've got a lot of content to cover. I'm going to pick up where we left off just before T-REX and getting into ComStat setup and help some folks with some of the issues that they were having with ComStat, and then some of the other peripheral programs that go along with ComStat, like the FL Message Reader, ComStat version 2 with the off-grid maps, and getting all of that set up. And there's so much material to cover. There's so much training to do. Make sure that you like and subscribe and support the channel and share with others that are working to get their comms up. We've got a series that's going to be coming up, Prepper Comms, starting from the ground up, basic level 1, all the way through advanced comms in small bite-sized chunks, something you can sit down with your group and your mutual assistance group, your church preparedness group, your family, whatever it is, and walk them through emergency communications, prepper comms for the Patriot from beginning to end, A to Z. Well, you guys, you have a great week and weekend. Be tuning in. There's going to be more content on the way. We'll get it cranked out as fast as we can. And we're also on the air practicing all the time. So make sure that you tune in to the AmRRON nets and keep practicing, keep training, and stay tuned. All right, this is John Jacob Schmidt. Get your comms up.